This is PNC Roundtable.
Hello, this is Ric DeVore, Regional President for PNC Bank, and thank you for listening to PNC Roundtable. It's on this show that we tackle some of the region's tough issues with people who make a difference.
Now here's the PNC Roundtable.
Welcome in to the PNC Roundtable. I'm Paul W. Smith, along with Regional President Ric DeVore, and we're at the 2015 North American International Auto Show in Detroit. And Rick, I know you've been around the show floor, and I hope you'll agree with me, one of the best ever.
Oh, it's just amazing. I mean, the quality and also the horsepower they're putting out in some of these vehicles. I mean, two vehicles go 200 miles an hour right off the showroom floor. I'm going to keep that away from my son.
Yes, you are. That's one of those, the Cadillac V, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. I said earlier, Florida will never be the same. But anyway... But anyway, there are great vehicles here made by the people of the Detroit area, so they're coming around looking with pride at these vehicles, and who can blame them for that? A couple of very special guests with us. Scott LaRiche is chairman of the 2015 North American International Auto Show, immediate past president of the Detroit Auto Dealers Association. Scott has served as a DADA board member for 6 years, beginning with his position as dealer line group chairman for Chevrolet. He served as DADA treasurer, secretary, vice president prior to serving as president in 2013. It's quite a process these gentlemen go through till they become the actual chairman of this great show. Scott is also executive manager, vice president of Lou LaRiche Chevrolet in Plymouth, which was established in 1970 by his father. And LaRiche is a third-generation dealer, as Scott's father, Lou, was part of the family dealership business with his father, Michael, in Cleveland, Ohio. And since its inception, Lou LaRiche Chevrolet has been consistently ranked in the top 250 Chevrolet dealers in total volume in the nation. And now today, Scott's son, Stephen, represents the fourth generation in the family business, a very proud and very busy chairman, Scott LaRiche. Nice to see you, sir.
Wow, thank you so much for reading all that stuff I wrote. I really appreciate that.
You wrote it well, my friend, and you earned it all. And just minutes ago, Scott, running from meeting to meeting, because this is a very big endeavor, one of the biggest in the world, was literally running here to be on the program, and we really appreciate that, Scott. And congratulations to you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
An old friend who's been here a number of times. In fact, did you say it's
fourth time we've done this? Yeah,
fourth visit, and I know that Rick said we're going to keep having him back till he gets it right.
That's right.
Mike Wall, with a great sense of humor. Mike Wall is the director, Automotive Analysis at IHS Automotive, bringing his over 18 years of financial analysis, consulting, and manufacturing experience to IHS Automotive, with a primary focus on assisting financial firms and suppliers in their evaluation and understanding of the auto industry, as well as in-depth analysis of vehicle markets and trends. And now would be a good time, right at the beginning of our PNC Roundtable with our regional president, Ric DeVore, to find out that this is just not a small part of an interest that PNC Bank has. You have a real commitment to the automotive industry in Michigan and throughout the country.
No, we really do. And, in Michigan, I add it up every year, but in Michigan, for the OEMs and the Tier 1s, we have just shy, Paul, of $3 billion of exposure. That's billion with a B.
Wow.
That's just in the state of Michigan. So we're very committed, and that's why we team up with people like Mike from IHS, because it's really incumbent on us to really understand new vehicle introductions. Are they going to be on time? What's the hot thing? What's the right accuracy in terms of production? And then on the dealer side, we have 3,400 dealerships in the United States that we do work with, either on the indirect paper side or actually in floor planning. So, we find ourselves in this kind of an interesting space in the sense that we supply a lot of capital companies like Ford Motor and do a lot of their paper, yet we're also in the business of making auto loans.
I'll tell you, I don't lose that thought, but in the conversation just before we came on the air, I was stunned to hear in what Scott was talking about, Mike, and you, Rick, is when you go in to buy that car and they go to look for the financing, the answers are put forward in about 21 seconds. You have about 21 seconds to gather all the information and get it back.
Yeah,
That's astounding.
And there's a regulatory piece to that, and I'll turn it over to Scott. But when you think about it, we have to go out and pick the right credit bureau of the credit bureaus, go out to like a Blue Book or something like that, pick the best one. We also have to determine, are you who you say you are, in terms of know your customer and those kinds of regulations. And it's a bidding process. It's an open market. And we think, and Scott could back me up, I think, on this, you have to have that answer in 21 to 23 seconds. Because we're competing with others, and that person in the finance area at the dealer floor wants to get that car moved as quick as they can.
Yeah, and we've been fortunate enough to be very busy at the dealerships. And so what happens is our finance director will gather the information, get it in as quick as possible, and they're on a timetable too. People don't like waiting around to pay for something.
Right.
So we want to get it done as quickly as possible, and partners like PNC help make that happen.
Well, that's excellent. Let's talk a little bit specifically about the show with the chairman while we have Scott LaRiche with us. What's new? What are you most excited about? People always like to hear about how many U.S. and international premieres there are. How many people of the international press were here for the first press days, the first 2 days?
Well, we had over 5,000 press personnel here from over 60 countries. Wow. So, Detroit and the North American International Auto Show was literally on the world stage. And you can be very proud of the fact that we shined in every corner of the world. With something? Unbelievable reveals. I mean, if you think about over 50 reveals, 45 of those being worldwide, 5 being North American. So you think about, why do manufacturers do that? It's because the press comes here. And one of the reasons they come here in such huge numbers is our partnership with Michelin and the Michelin Media Center that we have. It is literally the best in the world. They do a great job, and it helps bring people in.
Well, that's important, because when you're in the media and you're traveling around the world, you need to have certain things set up the way they need to be, that you're familiar with, and that the ease of access of information. So
they're not here for the weather.
Don't jinx it. We still have days to go.
It's fine.
And when you're hearing this, the show may have already concluded, but the point is it's on. And we had a little snow, nothing bad. Charity preview coming up. We hope to hit the $100 million mark for children's charities in our area, which is unbelievable. And everybody from the Detroit Auto Dealers Association and the North American International Auto Show should be congratulated for that. And for the job that's been done by the DADA. Of course, we have a whole bunch of people over the last several years, but Ron Alberts has been there every year. To be able to get Kobo in the shape that it's in has been spectacular and means a lot, raising the profile of the North American International Auto Show and Detroit as a place, destination for all of these events.
Oh, absolutely. And, if you go back in time to 2009, things were down. The facility wasn't up to par, unfortunately. And between Rod Alberts, the DADA, and some of the past chairmen, they decided we need to do something about this. We literally heard from around the world that we had this, horrible facility for a world-class show. Now I'm proud to say, because of their hard work, we have a world-class facility for the world-class auto show.
We have a city we don't have to make excuses for anymore. We have a Kobo Center we don't have to make excuses for anymore. We have an auto industry we don't have to make excuses for anymore. Yes. It's a pretty good time.
Oh, it really is. And, just to add, and I think you know this, but Scott might not know this, but we were one of the 3 banks that, I talked about this last year, that provided the financing for the expansion.
Oh, thank you very much. I didn't know that.
We're very proud of that. We're very proud of that fact. And, I think and it's a metaphor, I think, for cooperation in this region, right? Mm-hmm. Because people, when they found out about it, they'd say, Rick, if you've fallen and hit in your head, and it's not Detroit risk, it's really Oakland, Wayne, and Macomb County with some help from the state. And I think it's a metaphor for the new era of cooperation in this region with our current mayor, our current governor. Mm-hmm. I heard you talking about that this morning, and I would agree with you 100%.
Well put, Rick. I appreciate that. And let's go again back to the expert in this area, Mike Wall for IHS Automotive. It never hurts to hear it again and again, the economic impact that you're expecting, that you've been able to work out for our community and for the charities this year.
No, absolutely, and part of it, I think, it does relate to this Kobo expansion and renovation. This has become the gathering place for automotive again, and we're seeing that borne out with the amount of media, the footsteps that are going to be running through here next week. All of that's going to have certainly a huge benefit to the economics on the region here. And it speaks to the broader strength in the auto industry as well, what we're seeing right now. Contrast that with some of the volatility we're seeing in some of the international markets. The North American market, the U.S. market's looking pretty darn good.
Oh, it's looking really good. We would like to get them all on this. For the sake of the OEMs, we'd like to get them all doing well at the same time. What would that be like? I don't know. But maybe we'll find out. We also talked, when we talked about financing and PNC Bank, the internet has really changed the whole buying experience. It used to be, well, let me call the bank and I'll see. And, they're closed now, but I'll call them tomorrow and, we'll get this thing financed. 21 seconds on the internet. How else has the internet changed being a dealer and car sales for you, Scott?
Well, literally almost every single person does some sort of research on the internet. Hands down. Some people even go through the process of, picking out the vehicle, getting their financing in line, and then coming into the dealership to actually, take delivery. It's an exciting process. I love it when someone comes into the dealership armed and ready with information. Unfortunately, there's a lot of disinformation out there.
Oh, boy.
And unless you do your research, it's just great to see people knowing what they need to know about the product they want to buy.
It's a very big investment, and I can never quote figures, but there was a figure out this past week that talked about how much money revenue is generated through car sales. It's way more than house sales. I found that hard to believe, but apparently in terms of revenue, it's cars and vehicles.
It really is. And, from the dealership standpoint, the percentage that we make is very, very low. But the idea is that, we're there for the long haul. And
right.
Our job is to keep earning business over and over again. And the way that we can do that is by giving them great service, whether it's on their auto loan or if it's, bringing the car in for actual maintenance.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, that was an area that was a little tough for dealerships at one time, and people would say, I got to find a mechanic to work on my car. I can't take it back to the dealer. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it's going to get fixed or how much it'll cost, whatever. That has all gone away. Dealerships have really gotten their act together collectively.
Absolutely. There were some bad apples out there, unfortunately, and, the reputation was there. However, with the advent of the internet as well, you really need to take good care of people. Social media is out there.
Oh, yeah. If you don't, they're going to tell everybody.
That's right. And that's not the only reason we do it. My father, way, way back when, said, look, you have to take care of the people that come through the door. If we're going to grow this business, that's the only way to do it. They'll come back if you do that. Treat them like, you're inviting them into your own living room.
We love advertising. We live with advertising. That's the only way we do live on WJR. But word of mouth and return business is the lifeblood of any successful, certainly, car dealership.
Absolutely.
In the studies that we've done, upwards of 50% of that, you have to basically, as an automaker or maybe even as a dealer potentially, you need to capture or recapture 50% of those sales. So the more you can do to retain those buyers, you don't have to go out from scratch and try to regain those new buyers. It's all about trying to capture and keep that market share.
There are some young potential buyers that are very important to PNC. It's in your DNA, and I suspect, Ric DeVore, that Education Day is still a priority for you.
We're bringing 400 pre-K kids
Wow.
to the auto show next week. And what we've done, and this is actually making me a little bit more comfortable, is we used to do it embedded in Education Day on the 21st. But now we're having all the pre-K kids the next day on the 22nd, just because there was anxiety as you walk through the auto show with 400 pre-K kids that you might lose somebody. And so I know the teachers and the parents and caregivers are a little bit more comfortable with this. But yeah, we're excited about that. So we work not only with the auto show and do that and sponsor that, but we also then, as you know, have our agreement with Penske where we also bring them back to the Grand Prix along with a cohort of fifth graders. So we're very committed to this because somewhere in there, is a future engineer, hopefully. Certainly future car buyers.
That's a lot of little earplugs when you go to the Chevrolet Detroit
Yes, it
Belle Isle
is.
Grand Prix. That's a lot of little ones. Scott LaRiche, chairman of the 2015 North American International Auto Show. What sort of impact do you see as a dealer and just as a driver like the rest of us? And I'm going to get Mike's opinion on this and Rick's too. The impact from basically what's been a collapse in oil and gasoline prices.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's really funny because we've had some opportunity to really look at this from the standpoint. If you remember when gas went to $4.50 a gallon,
Sure do.
Unbelievable amount of money. And what happened is it only happened for like a 3 or 4 month period. Everybody was dumping out of their giant SUVs. Well, when everything restabilized, now suddenly they don't have their big cars anymore. So I think people are they're optimistic that it's going to stay low, but they're also very, very careful in what they're looking to purchase.
I think most of us realize this is a wonderful gift.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wonderful temporary raise that
Mm-hmm.
we're all making right now. I'm getting a raise every time I fill my car with gas. And so is everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to bank on this. We're not going to spend this raise like it's there forever. Although I do sense walking around this fabulous auto show that people are more open to fun vehicles as opposed to vehicles they feel they have to drive because of the price of fuel.
That's
Yeah.
right. Go ahead.
I think the automakers have helped us with that because over the last several years since the crash, they're coming out with still more and more fuel-efficient vehicles. So you can have a fun vehicle and still have it be quite fuel-efficient. And now the customers are getting this sort of de facto tax cut in the form of gas prices, and it helps with consumer confidence. It helps you make, anytime you have a little more money in the bank, it makes you feel a little, you got a little extra spring in your step.
Yeah, a little more
and
secure,
you've got
confident.
a significant number of new vehicles that are all very compelling, and yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be a hybrid electric still, and we see a lot of those. But we've also got some naturally aspirated engines. We've got turbocharged engines. We've got all sorts of fun vehicles that are out here that are all getting better fuel economy. So we can still balance that.
So what would you say then, Mike Wall, Director of Automotive Analysis at IHS Automotive, would be, since the auto industry is operating at a pretty good, fairly steady pace right now, what's your biggest concern for 2015?
I think still big concerns are probably going to be outside our borders. They're going to be some of the international pressures that we have out there, whether we're talking Eastern Europe with Russia or South America and some of the challenges there. We're still pretty evenly balanced here in the U.S. I mean, the beautiful thing is we do have oil prices is somewhat of a double-edged sword even for us here with all of the oil production we have, but net it's still a net positive for us given the amount of consumer consumption going on.
Mm-hmm.
But internationally there are still some pressures. But I'm still hard-pressed to see that derailing our story this year. We're looking for close to 17 million units of U.S. light vehicle sales this year, 17 million, and that's relative to 16.5 million last year. So still a very positive environment, and positive for suppliers too on the production side. In fact, we're adding more and more production in this market, in this region.
And PNC Regional President Ric DeVore, you have some thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is uncanny actually, but our chief economist Stu Hoffman is usually spot on lockstep with Mike, but I think he's going at 17 million. You'll get a chance to ask him that in March. I will say though that the consumer is still the king of the economy. They drive the biggest proportion of the economy. Yet it seems like Wall Street doesn't know quite what to do with these fuel prices. And we're having a little bit of trouble deciphering, is that the oil, prices, or is it the disarray in Europe? I mean, what is it that's causing this weird volatility in the stock market?
I think some of it is Saudi Arabia saying we're going to run these other guys out of business.
Yeah. Well, and
because the oil, the Canadian oil sands gone out of business at these prices, and fracking, it costs more to do that. So nobody can produce oil as cheaply as they can.
Yeah, you've seen them say that $100 a barrel is probably the top end and so forth. But I think the one thing that I'm curious about, and I'd like Mike and Scott's thoughts on, is obviously, the automotives love the fact that people are going to, more trucks and more SUVs. Their margins are much better there. With that said, if you forecast out in the future with CAFE standards, if we have so many people going over to the trucks and everything, granted, better gas mileage, can we make these CAFE standards? Forget California, because they're just crazy out there. I'm not talking about California. But,
They're an anomaly.
no
Yeah.
kidding. It's a different country. But you have thoughts
I
about
mean,
that?
I mean, it's a huge question because CAFE is still looming. Even with gas prices where
Yeah.
they're going, the CAFE standards don't change. Now we have that mid-period review in 2016, 2017, where I'm sure there'll be some potential adjustments there, but the automakers have to have a laser focus on being able to hit those CAFE numbers.
Well, you have people like Sergio Marchionne, who is one of the legitimate, there are a few, one of the legitimate rock stars of the auto industry, who's starting to challenge this whole idea.
Yep.
He's starting to say, wait a minute, let's not be ridiculous. And frankly, he's worth listening to.
And we may see some adjustments
And I
on
hope
that
he
because of
is-
exactly what Rick is talking about, because of gas. Now, gas price, we have the same mindset too. That gas prices, there will be a natural upward trajectory.
Trust
there.
me when I tell you this. They're back in session in Washington, and they're going to come up with ways to make gas cost more with taxes to fix the roads, they'll say.
Oh,
I
there
mean,
you
it's
go.
just,
We're
you
saying
can
that in
count
this
on it.
state, so,
You
yeah.
can count on it. So
Well, Mike hit the nail right in the head. There will be, I'm very confident, when they do the mid-review, some relaxing. It's just a ridiculous amount of fuel mileage they want us to get to.
Right.
And the bottom line is, I think brighter minds will figure this out, and we're going to be in a position that I think everybody's going to, we're increasing already the gas mileage, no doubt about it.
Right.
But to your point, if we're selling more cars, how are we going to make this all fit? And the bottom line is, as long as there's a steady increase in gas mileage in a realistic way to do it, it won't be too expensive for the consumer, and we can make this work.
yeah, this is always a tough question, but is there any key vehicle introductions or vehicles on the floor that the three of you have seen or noticed that think are especially significant, game changers, or even just for someone listening to us on WJR.com, something you think they ought to make sure they go and look for? Mike?
Yeah, and for Scott too, this is probably like asking who's your favorite kid.
I know, that's why I say it's a difficult question.
I mean, there are some stunning reveals this year. I mean, what you even saw with Chevy on the new Volt and the Bolt concept that they unveiled. I mean, even in the face of $2 gas, again, we understand where the natural trajectory is. GM's investing heavily in alternative propulsion, and we see that benefits with those launches. The Ford GT that we saw not too long ago just took the show by storm. The Acura NSX. I mean, we say this every year. There's always something for everybody here, but even more so than probably ever before. I mean, you could stroll the show, and you're going to be stunned at virtually every stand.
And I'm going to answer that two ways.
Right.
One with my North American...
Knowing that he and his dad are the LaRiche Chevrolet in Plymouth, but go ahead.
Well, okay, so first with my North American International Auto Show chairman hat on.
Right.
Very interesting reveal with Nissan. They said it was going to be a game changer, and it was going to redefine their brand. And that's the pickup truck that they brought off the Titan. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
I haven't seen it, so it's that
Yeah,
great. Huh?
it is really something special. And for someone to come out and say that about their brand, that's really saying something. And I will say along...
Would you put the LaRiche Chevrolet hat back on for a
Yes,
second?
I will. Absolutely. I was sweating there for a moment.
Now, that was the run you made.
That's right. So, I have to agree with Mike from the standpoint that the Chevy Volt and the Bolt are really something special. And to add on to that, in every single display on the floor, there is some sort of an EV or hybrid vehicle. So some sort of an electric vehicle or hybrid in every single stand.
Wow.
That says a lot.
It does.
Even with gas prices coming down, there is a big, big future. And a lot of the R&D is being done right here in Michigan.
Right.
That's the good news.
I saw it on TV, and I want to go see it, but it was a concept car, I must admit to you. But the Buick
The new
concept
Buick,
car?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah.
What is the name again?
The Avenir.
Where did they come up with these names? This does not
It's
roll
French
off
for
the
future.
Oh, well,
It's a beautiful car, but every year I have an annual thing. My birthday is next week, so I take a picture of the car I want and send it to my wife.
and Donna says, I didn't get that.
It's nice, right? But this is it's one of the Mercedes, but it's I noticed it was 119, so I think she'll say, that's nice, honey, put your head down now.
I think he means $119,000 is
Yeah,
what he means.
I saw her over there talking to the guys a little earlier. So
Got the deal.
She's having trouble with the finance guy.
It's very funny. You think of all of the great cars at various price points. There is something for everyone at this 2015 North American International Auto Show Detroit. There are the cars that we really, really want and can dream about. They're the cars that we really, really can buy, and it's exciting. And there isn't a bad looking or bad car from what I've seen so far in the lot. There isn't. It's not like you say, well, this really is not that great, but this is what I can afford and this is what I'm going to get. There's affordable, fabulous vehicles at whatever is affordable to you.
It's probably the most exciting show I have ever seen. And I have to say, I talked to a gentleman from Michelin yesterday, and I said, hey, what do you think of the show? And he said, this is actually my first show. And he said, it turned me into an 18-year-old kid.
Oh, boy.
And I thought, wow, that's fantastic. Then I heard the backstory. This guy's regular day job, he is a test driver for Michelin, driving Corvettes around every day. If you can turn a guy like that into a kid, it really is saying something about this show and all the beautiful vehicles, from the world right here.
Beautiful. We've talked on the local point of contact level with dealerships like you at LaRiche. We've talked about the OEMs because of the money that you guys are involved with the PNC Bank and, of course, IHS Automotive and your involvement and consulting that you do with them. Let's not forget the suppliers. They're a very important cog, and I'm wondering what the outlook for suppliers, given the current state of the industry.
Yeah, there's a lot of suppliers that are going to be kicking tires the next couple days
Sure.
here.
And by the way, they're the guys walking around with pride because a lot of their product are on these cars.
Question.
So it's not just the folks that work the line who have noticeable pride, and well, they should. It's suppliers and people who work in the supply chain.
This is a great time to be a supplier too. You look at last year in North America, by the time everything's tallied, we built about 17 million light vehicles in North America. This year, we'll do about 17.4 million. So this steady, we're well beyond pre-crash levels at this point. We're starting to flirt with record territory, and the suppliers are benefiting from that as well. Profitable. And again, supplying these very stunning vehicles.
And here's a bottom line that, look, I'm as concerned as anyone, maybe more concerned in some respects because I'm a worrier. I worry about the UAW contracts coming up, and I worry about getting derailed. I worry about people not having a long-term memory. I worry about people saying, well, no, everything's great, so I'm getting mine. We can't do that at any level in this business or this industry. So, with that thought in mind, I'm hoping that cooler heads will prevail. We'll all love what we have and work toward it. On the other hand, we're not the only ones sitting here, the four of us, who understand that the auto industry and suppliers and everyone else went through a period of massive cutbacks, layoffs, eliminations of jobs. And so they know how to make money and are at levels lower than where we are selling cars. Absolutely. So if we really hit 17 and a half, we know they're going to be making lots more money. That has to be understood and remembered in the negotiations that we have. I mean, what's fair is fair.
Absolutely.
That's all I'm hoping
I would
for.
agree with you. I think, though, that I'm hopeful, and I think both the automakers, the suppliers, and the unions are going to look at it through a worldwide lens. Right now our lens is North America, and we're giddy, and it's great. But remember, not that long ago, North America was kind of the doormat on automotive, and it was all in Asia, it was Europe, and so it seems like there's always somebody that's having some issues, whether right now in Europe, maybe South America or wherever, and obviously there's money parts to that in terms of the value of the dollar and everything. But I'm hopeful that this group will look at it through the lens of worldwide, not just the lens of like U.S. or something, but we'll see.
Because it is going great in North America right now, but it isn't going great elsewhere, and it matters. In the same way that whichever one of the companies, might have been GM, wouldn't have survived if they weren't selling vehicles in China a few years ago.
Right. Good point.
The reverse is true.
Yeah.
If they stop selling them in China, which they're not selling them at the same rate because things have slowed down in China, and certainly we know about Europe, then we have to realize that really does affect us here.
Well, and to your point, it really does affect us in a big way. And the slow growth that we've seen since 2009, we have to remember, this didn't happen overnight. Manufacturing of vehicles in Michigan is up 97% since 2009. That's huge. It's a big benefit to this region. And people have to remain calm and, keep the ship right and keep on going.
I was distracted for a moment because I see Edsel Ford over there. Edsel, have you taken delivery of your new Ford GT yet? You have, haven't you? You see it 0000001. Good job, Edsel. There's probably a little competition in the family to get the first one.
I would think so,
I'm
yes.
thinking
I just did a double take myself. I was looking out there. I thought, that's Edsel Ford. Why did he say went to Chrysler?
This is the North American International Auto Show, and you'll never, you should realize you're going to be surprised sometimes with the people that are here, walking around, enjoying themselves, and we hope you will do that as well. It's extremely important that we have a successful gallery, which you did, Scott. You had a lot of big item sales from the gallery, big event. Certainly the charity preview, if it hasn't happened yet when you're listening to this program, NAIAS.com. We could hit $100 million for children's charities, which is astounding. And then we can't forget, too, that the numbers we get, 800,000 to 1 million, I'm hoping, with people, just people like us, coming to the show is extremely important to the success of the show. And it's why 5,000 media people come, and it's why they make reveals here, because of the health and success of this show.
That's right. And Rick spoke earlier about the students coming in, the young people. I would venture to guess that every single day of the show, there's some young person that decides at that moment they're going to get into the automobile business, whether it's design, whether it's maybe making these beautiful stands, whether it's being a salesperson at a dealership. They make that decision that day that they're here, and they move forward with it.
That's cool.
Isn't that?
Absolutely.
That's a great thought, Scott. That is a great thought. One other thought when we were talking about what I'd like you to be sure to see, and there are too many cars, trucks, SUVs for me to just pick out one or two, although obviously we love being here on the Fiat Chrysler stand. We're surrounded by great vehicles like these Fiats and the Fiat 500X, and we happen to be watching, I think, some of the best commercials I've ever seen for automotive industry, and Olivia Francois does a great job with just very special commercials. But be that as it may, I want people to be sure to go downstairs to the Michigan Hall. I want them to see what Brigadier General Dave Bassett has there as the Program Executive Officer, Ground Combat Systems at U.S. Army TACOM there. It's our Detroit arsenal. We were the arsenal of the world. We still are there in Warren. And see some of this hardware that we're paying for with our tax dollars, but that our kids are using around the world to keep us safe.
It is impressive.
Amazing.
It is unbelievable. Have you guys been down there? Oh, my gosh.
You're going to see things you can't believe you would see at the auto show, and you won't see it at any other auto show in the world, but that's because we still are the arsenal of democracy, and we never want to forget that.
Right.
That's right. You mentioned the area downstairs, and Shell has a connected car experience that you can actually get in the vehicles and see some of the technology of the future right now in a vehicle. It's pretty cool.
It's very cool. Yeah. It's a great show. Congratulations to you, Scott LaRiche, as the chairman of the 2015 North American International Auto Show. Please give my best to your dad, Lou, over there at Lou LaRiche Chevrolet in Plymouth.
Thank you very much for having me. It was an honor to be on the board today.
Well, when you got guys like Mike Wall,
Absolutely.
Director Automotive Analysis at IHS Automotive, bringing all of his experience to the table with everything, I think he's earned a 5th visit.
I think he has. I think it's in the bag.
I'll book it.
I'm thinking that he has. And the final word goes to our co-host, Regional President of PNC Bank, Ric DeVore.
Well, I appreciate that, Paul. I'll tell you, what I love about the auto show, and this might sound funny, is it's in January. Because, the holidays are great, and normally there's January blahs, but it's exciting. It's like the holidays, if you will.
It really is.
And it's a source of pride for this region. It's one of our big things that we do, and we do it better than anybody. And so I'm glad it's here.
Well put. I'm glad that it's here as well. And that's it for our time on the PNC Roundtable. I hope you'll join me Monday through Friday mornings on 760 WJR from 5:30 till 9. In the meantime, on behalf of Ric DeVore, President of PNC, Regional President, regards, Paul W. Smith.